in jail, man, and fucking free my guys out of
All right, Richmond, we are here. This is your girl Silk, and I am sitting here with the man, Celebrity Dame. And I sat behind stage and watched the last show, and it was true fire. The videos was fire. Buzzy was like bugging out or whatever and stuff. Told y'all I was with y'all till y'all started cracking them old people jokes, but that's okay. So tell me, we heard about you. We seen the interview. We seen what was going on, but I want to know what started you interested in doing blogs. What kicked that off?
What happened was I was actually asleep. I tell the story a lot. I was actually asleep, and I had an idea. I had just something come to me that said, yo, I want to do a website. So it started off, I wanted to do like a hip hop website, like a World Star hip hop site. But when that didn't work, I kind of just switched it up, and I started personally writing the news. And I did like a lot of satire things. And then I went from doing the satire things to starting to focus more on the actual hip hop side of things. So when I started getting into the hip hop, I seen the response I was getting, especially I wrote an article that was saying Charlotte hip hop could be bigger than Atlanta's. You know what I'm saying? And it just went crazy, the response that I got. And I realized that there was a need for artists to get a certain type of promotion that they wouldn't normally be able to get. And ever since then, I've just been at it.
One of the things that you and I talked about off camera is we are really, really clear that some of the best artists aren't signed or whatever. Yes. And you dropped some jewels of knowledge during that last show about what artists can do to be signed. Right. My question to you is, right now, who do you think are the king and the queens in hip hop?
Well, the king in hip hop, I think, will forever be Jay-Z in my eyes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? As
Being
far
a girl
as that,
from Brooklyn, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, as far as that in that era, you know, it's like, in my opinion, being my age, I feel like Jay-Z is king. You know what I'm saying? And then as far as in hip hop, queen wise, I have to say Missy Elliott.
Okay.
That's gonna be strange, but that's just who I always look at as like the dopest female rapper ever.
Okay.
Her, and then I have to say Lauryn Hill as well. So between those two.
Okay. And you know, doing that Carmel Jams video jam show, we saw Tupac. And so my question to you is, as somebody who has studied the game, do you think some of these artists would be on if Biggie and Tupac was alive today?
Some of these artists in what way? Which artists?
I'm talking about like
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that Tupac and Big were pioneers, and I think that their most definitely changed the type of culture that we have in hip hop. Okay. So I have to say yes and no. I do think that it would be a difference, a big difference.
Okay. Let me ask you, because one of the things and stuff is that, you know, we can joke around, but we got to go to our serious side. Right. Do you think that the hip hop culture today has a social conscience?
Not so much. I don't think so. You know, for the most part, when they do, usually the response isn't as great. So when you start talking about politics, and you start talking about more positive things in hip hop, then you have people backing off.
Right.
So it has to be delivered a certain way, and it can be done, but they haven't cracked the code.
And that's I'm glad that you said that, because one of the things that we're clear is the last two presidential elections, the hip hop community came out strong, and they basically helped the deciding factor in elections. And now they're silent. That's a little bit scary or whatever and stuff. So what do you think that we can do as a blogger, as someone that's before media, to turn that around?
Yeah, as far as hip hop goes, and as far as the African American culture, period, we have to be more consistent. So you, like, as a black man, I know I do this myself. I get excited about something, very excited about something, and I'm at it, I'm going hard. When we get like that, we're powerful people.
Right.
But when that excitement is gone, we don't know how to continue to capture that moment.
Right.
So once it's not exciting anymore,
right,
we're like, okay, well, let somebody, you know, we have that bystander effect where it's like, let somebody else do it. Even with voting and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, somebody else can vote. Like, my vote don't count.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that we have to work on as a people, period.
I agree. One of the other things, just staying serious for a moment, is because, okay, definitely there's a different generation there. Yeah. You know, you give a shout out to one of the legends, and, you know, I commend you because you handled that with such class. But I'm from the generation where hip hop was a culture. We lived it, we breathed it. It was in our fashion, it was in our clothes, it was everything that we do. This new generation, some, I won't say all because I've seen fire behind stage, but this new generation seems to just rap as something that you do. I got to get paid, I got to get rich now. And we hearing all kinds of garbage that coming out. I mean, I'm seeing young men right here in the studio that's not even signed, whose stuff is fire, and I'm listening to stuff on the radio that's like, that shit is whack. You know, my point is, what is the message? Do you think this era is dying? Do you think, because we're seeing a lot of one-hit wonders, that was unheard of in my generation. Now you're seeing people come out with one song and that's it.
Yeah, some people actually, I think some artists are better as single artists, single deal artists, because some you may be a weak artist and then have a great song, and then nothing to follow up with it. So sometimes you have to use what you have in order to, until you know what I'm saying, and use that to get where you need to go, and then sit back a little bit and recreate yourself and get better at your craft. And then, you know, sometimes it happens so fast that they don't even have a chance to react to it. You know,
and they should be talking about your stuff. You know, I share, and Carmel knows off camera that, you know, this is nothing new to me. I come from that. I've worked with a lot of artists. I mean, those of y'all that's from Brooklyn, Trick, shouting out Trigger the Gambler, Smooth the Hustler, that's who introduced me and my husband or whatever. That whole broken language is still being talked about in the streets. I always say, what do you think about artists getting to know the business of show business? Because what happens is, you know, one of the things I sit back, I get so frustrated every time somebody throws up a showcase. These artists run and they spin that paper and do showcases, and artists, development people are supposed to be there and they never get signed. How do they decipher between that, the reality, and the bullshit?
I think for the most part, man, make sure you checking track records. Especially when you're doing stuff like that. Make sure you're checking track records. A lot of times, I hate to say it, I throw showcases every once in a while, but a lot of times showcases aren't beneficial at all. You know, I feel like the artist should use showcases to sharpen their skills.
I agree.
You know, just performance, and that's all it should be, because there's nobody there who's actually going to be interested in purchasing your music or anything, because everybody's there is rappers or came to support a certain rapper. You know what I'm saying? Not saying it's not good to do, because you got to keep those, you know, skills sharp. But I feel like for the most part, man, when they coming out and they're trying to do their shows, make sure that you're checking these guys out who are throwing these shows.
Right, and that credibility, like you said, track record, legitimate. And then also, one of the things that I'm noticing with a lot of the upcoming artists is they don't realize they're a brand. Like Silk is a brand. I tell people, Google me. Silk is a brand. You got to be a brand. Okay, you got to know that you got to be careful of who you get in bed with, so to speak, or whatever. What kind of message would you share with them on your blog to expand their brand? Because you can't be 80 years old still spitting. You can, because you said your grandmother raps, but still you should have other things that you want to graduate into. Like you said, Jay-Z, that clothesline, owning half of the Barclays Center and things of that nature.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to learn when to get out the way.
Okay.
I've been saying this for probably like the past month, very blatantly. Sometimes you just gotta know when to get out the way. If you're getting too old, you don't have the same type of music, you don't have a core fan base who's gonna buy or purchase or even listen. Help a young boy out. It's a new generation, it's a new type of music. Don't be against it. We have a lot of older people, not old people, but you know, older MCs who are just like, oh,